It's 1933. We've got a collapse of capitalism. It's really bad. 25% of our people are unemployed. Poverty is everywhere. The American people reacted to that misery, the collapse from the roaring 20s into the miserable 30s, by getting angry at rich people and at corporations, big time. Millions of Americans who had never been in a union, who came from families where no one had ever been in a union, joined unions. It was the greatest organizing drive in American history. Unions have never achieved that before, and they've never achieved anything like it since. In a matter of 2 or 3 years, millions of Americans joined a union to save them from the horrors of the Depression. Working together with the unions, organizing, were 2 socialist parties, not just one, 2. A kind of reformist, middle-of-the-road one, and what we now call Trotskyite one. And also working with them was the American Communist Party. Big, powerful organizations, all of them. And they went and talked with Roosevelt, and they had a conversation. Frank, they said, we here represent millions and millions of people. We like you, you're a Democrat, but you've got to do something about the mass suffering of the American people. And we got to tell you in all honesty that if you don't, we got a lot of people who want to do here what those Russians did over in the Soviet Union. And Roosevelt was a very smart politician. He knew they were not bluffing. So Roosevelt listened and he said, okay, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to go talk to the rich and the corporate leaders, and I'll see what I can do. And he met with the businesses. And he said to the businesses, basically, I got to take care of all these poor people. And I advise you to help me, because the only way I can take care of them is if you give me the money. And I advise you to do it, because if you don't, those people are going to make sure you don't have any money to give me. With half of the business community and the rich in his pocket, he went back to the coalition of the CIO, the socialists, and the communists, and he said, okay, I got a deal. We can do business. I am going to get money from the rich and the corporations, and I'm going to help you. But you've got to promise me something. Stop talking about revolution. Roosevelt gets up and says, I'm going to create Social Security. What? In the middle of a depression when there's no money, you're about to tell everybody who's over 65, here's a check every month for the rest of your life. Yup, that's what he did. And before people could even deal with the enormity, we had no Social Security before that, he announced the unemployment compensation system. We had never had a program of giving money to people who are out of work for a year or 2 every week. The government had no money. It was the Great Depression. He said, I'm going to give the old people who are over 65 a check every month, and the unemployed, of whom there were millions, a check every week. I'm going to make a minimum wage, and he made it nice and high. In real terms, higher than it is now. But then came the big one, as if these weren't big enough. Said the president, went on the radio, I am going to tell you, the American people, the following. If the private sector can't provide work to the millions of Americans who ask only to have a job, I, as president, have to do that. And between 1934 and 1941, he created and filled 15 million jobs in the United States, which the government paid for. They paid the salaries. And where did he get the money? He taxed corporations and the rich. That's where the money came from, because that's where the money always is to solve these social problems. State of the Union message, 1944. We're in a war. In a war. He sends a message, Roosevelt, president, to the Congress. I propose that the top bracket, the top income tax rate on the richest people be, ready? 100%. Every dollar over $25,000 you get, You don't get. We get it. 100%. We take every dollar. He sent the message. The Republicans, doing what the Republicans are supposed to, went ballistic until a compromise was reached between the Republicans and the Democrats, which they then sent to the president, who signed it, making the top bracket in 1944 94%. As soon as the war was over, the business community, the ones who had never been persuaded by Roosevelt, went to work to destroy that coalition. They began with the weakest link, the Communist Party. And they turned them from a militant organizing thing, which is what it had been in the 30s and 40s, into the horrible agent of a foreign power, and you know the rest. We demonized them. They were evil, bad. We killed a couple of them, didn't we? The Rosenbergs, for those of you who never heard these stories. We executed them. They were furious at these taxes. The rich were furious at paying 91%. Even if they got out of a lot of that with clever tax accountants, they still had to pay a lot to take care of I don't know, you.